Here. What's up, guys? Happy Friday, man. It's Friday already? Whenever you get like a Friday, you open up Friday, right? You're ready for a big slate for some reason. All year, I feel like Friday nights have just been like 10, 12 gamers. Not tonight. Small enough slate to really be able to dive deep, you know, game by game. So we'll have a little bit of fun, man. But I guess we'll talk a little bit about last night. Hopefully you guys did well last night. Shout out to the live chat. Vic, Josh Grisham says Jordan Poole, Fred VanVleet, Draymond Green over fantasy, Kyle Anderson over points, Jimmy Butler less points, and John Morant under assists. So he's coming through with, I suppose, the PrizePicks fire right off the rip. I can get behind that. What up, everyone hates Chris, Ducking, Chester, J. Cole, Jermaine, Cole, Mr. Nice Watch. Man, I'm not even like this. This ain't even me. What up, Squeak, Dang Lazy Mofo, TJ Gaming. Hope you guys did all right. Smoothie, Jake here. Got your Happy Meal? Let's go. Man, I just ordered some energy drinks. I wanted my usual pipeline punch. They brought me the old-fashioned. This usually gives me the shakes, so hopefully it'll be all right. But I need the caffeine. Yeah, last night was good. Really good for me. I happened to just end up the bulk of my 20 entries and my single entries, stuff like that. Ended up going away from Luka. Got injured and did well. So I had like a lot of Kyrie, Paul George, Darius Garland, no-brainers. Loved Evan Mobley, no-brainer, stuff like that. I think what hurt me the most is I fell into a weird amount of Royce O'Neal, unfortunately. And then Nikola Vucevic, man, that was my guy. I thought that matchup for him, for his sakes, that matchup against the Charlotte Hornets could have been one of those 50-60 fantasy point opportunities, and it just wasn't. So there was a couple things that anchored me down from having, the first place finish, but it was a profitable night, and I think what kept me profitable is I ran a little bit on the good side by being on the other side of the Luka injury. But while I was on the other side of the Luka injury, I was also on the other side of like Spencer Dinwiddie ownership. He was like 30% of Dorian Finney-Smith. So the Luka injury, I don't know if it helped me or hurt me. You know what I mean? So I'm still kind of baffled by how high owned some of those Mavs were in retrospect. But yeah, how'd you guys do? What up, Timmy? Hope you're doing all right. What up, Chris? Shane? Last night fooked me for both DraftKings and PrizePicks. Oh, and PrizePicks, we swept it. So we did 3 PrizePicks that we researched on this stream, and they were Nick Claxton over 16.5 points. Killed it. Alperen Şengün over 5.5 assists. I think he had like 7. And then Terry Rozier over 2.5 threes. My man hit 2 threes in the first couple minutes. I was like, oh, this better hit. And then he got there. And we talked about each one of these on the stream yesterday. And it wasn't a matter of, finding the EV, the odds on the sportsbook. We identified the matchups, the recent usage for Claxton without Durant. Şengün in a tougher front court matchup. He's already got like a 25% assist rate over this stretch without Kevin Porter Jr. And then Terry Rozier, we talked about how the Bulls naturally funnel opponents to shoot threes. So all those were well researched, and it's fun to see research get paid off. So if you guys tailed some of that, man, hopefully you you did well. Yeah. LeVert disappointed. Yeah, we talked about that too. LeVert in that split only averages a little over a fantasy point per minute. Talked about how it would be Garland, Evan Mobley, and LeVert. So all of that was in the research. So I'm very happy with that. And sometimes, the results don't go the research's way. But yesterday, I think a lot of the results went the way the research led us. So I'm happy with that. Hopefully, we keep that kind of going into tonight, is Clark going to start or Tillman? I think that's a coin flip. We've certainly seen both of them draw the starting opportunity. Right now, I'm going to project Clark. Most other sites are projecting Clark, but we have to keep our head on the ground, ear to the ground, and yeah. Let's get some prize picks for tonight. Yeah, we'll try and go game by game. And if you guys are out there lurking, you got some prize picks hunches, man, throw them at us, and we'll research them as well. We're gonna do both. We're gonna do DraftKings analysis. We're gonna do fantasy analysis, and then game by game we'll peek back and forth between the prize picks as well. Right? Taking Miranda Baines out, yeah. This stream brought to you by RunDFS.com. We'll talk more about the VIP membership later, but as always, anything that I'm referencing throughout the spreadsheet is available to you guys behind the paywall at RunDFS.com. So get in on that, man. Follow along, I guess, if you want. Week passes, 2 week passes, month passes. We got the All-Star special 2 days ago. This was dropped in price to $299. So $300 essentially gets you locked in until July 11th, or $500 gets you locked in for the entire year, wrapping up NBA, wrapping up NFL, the entire baseball season, the beginning of next NBA season, the beginning, almost the whole NFL season. There's a lot of value in that, and comes with a $150 credit towards Fantasy Cruncher, and the All-Star one also comes with a $100 credit towards Fantasy Cruncher, and that is the optimizer I use to manage my portfolio of lineups every night. So if you guys do get into the VIP, you go into the VIP Discord, you say, hey Gun, how do I do this? We can jump in the Discord phone call or something like that, and I'd be like, all right, here's how I do this, blah blah blah, and I could walk you through it.
Bing
yeah,
bong.
bing bong.
Beast with super chatted $4.99.
Beast bets. Appreciate that $5 dono off the rip, man. That's love. That's love. Yeah. What up, Conscious? What up, Abel? Colin Anderson over points. All right, hey, that's not a me play. I was just reading from the chat. We'll talk about it if you guys remind me when we get there. Anyway, tonight, 5 games. We got 1 game at lock, 7 p.m. tip-off. Milwaukee Bucks at the Indiana Pacers. Project starting 5 for the Bucks. Drew Holiday, Grayson Allen, Chris Middleton, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis auntie got a poodle. Brooke Lopez taking on TJ McConnell. Andrew Nembhard, Buddy Hield, Aaron Naismith, and Miles Turner. We got 240 total, 8.5 point spread in favor of the visiting Milwaukee Bucks. I forgot to go look at the 3 p.m. what to watch for from Underdog. So let's take a pause for the cause and make sure nothing from this game is super pertinent on the what to watch for list that they tweeted out. Rudy Gobert, questionable. Donovan Mitchell, doubtful. Miles Turner, questionable. Pertinent to this game. Giannis Antetokounmpo, probable. Very pertinent to this game. Desmond Bane, questionable. Andrew Wiggins, questionable. Andrew Nembhard, questionable. And Aaron Naismith, questionable. So several cues from this game that we should get to the bottom of. So I'm going to go open the NBC Sports Edge player depth chart and go check out the Indiana Pacers. This is just a page I like. It's pretty convenient to kind of look at depth charts and get some of the injury blurbs. So starting with Andrew Nembhard with that Q tag, he's listed as questionable with a non-COVID illness. He has missed the Pacers' last 2 games, and with Tyrese Halliburton still sidelined, TJ McConnell, Chris Duarte have started both of those contests. So we'll watch for that. Hopefully a couple of games of an illness. He might be closer to in than out. Whatever. Aaron Naismith, right wrist soreness. He played through his wrist injury Wednesday, but there's no guarantee he takes the court for Friday's divisional showdown with the Bucks. If he's out, Benedict Mathurin, O'Shea Brissett, Jalen Smith are candidates. And then Miles Turner, questionable with right ankle sprain. You know the drill. Diligent fantasy manager. If Turner is sidelined, Isaiah Jackson becomes an immediate streaming option. So all these blurbs are credit to NBC Sports Edge. So we know nothing after all of that about the Pacers, and we've certainly seen the Pacers throw us curveballs in similar scenarios the last season, 2 seasons with their starting lineup. So I'm just going to go as is. Let's just project everyone that we see ready to go. And then if some of these guys can't go, we get to run back some lineups that maybe we saw last outing, such as if Nemhart goes down, we know Duarte's live to draw the start. But more than likely, it means Benedict Mathurin for a lot of minutes and probably closes out. And then if Naismith can't go, we have seen a scenario where Jalen Smith lately would draw the start. But we know they can also get pretty trolly with that front court as well. So for now, we're going to go with as projected. That 8.5 point spread kind of leaves the door open for many interpretations here. But with Giannis officially probable, gotta like the Bucks to healthily win this game. A pretty beefy total. And versus the rest of the slate, Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to elevate himself above the rest. So far, an 8 fantasy point projection above the next man for me. So Giannis's raw points mean something on a 5-game slate. And you guys know when it comes to these smaller slates, I talk about raw points meaning a little bit more than usual. With some slates, 10-game slates where you got 20 teams, you're more likely to see those quasi outlier or super ceiling games, the 80 fantasy point games. Well, in these smaller slates, it's less likely to have as many of those big scores. So if Giannis is going to outscore the next guy by 10 points on a 5-game slate, then I want to have some exposure to him. And that also is the same kind of line of thinking for the 5-6K guys when it comes to what we might expect from them in terms of value. So today, I'd be more inclined to accept 1 or 2 25s in the 5K range in my lineup at the 5K price point from the Department of Redundancy department versus on a bigger slate. I'm really trying to get as much ceiling as I can. So with that in mind, looking at the Bucks here, going at the last couple of games, Middleton has been back 2 games, and we've seen him in that last game against the Nuggets. He was still off the bench, and that was what we saw against the Pistons in the game prior as well, kind of being babied into conditioning. 15 minutes in game 1, 14 and a half minutes in game 2. So I guess I should have fixed that, but I see several other sites continuing to list Middleton as a starter by default, but that's not necessarily guaranteed to be the case, and probably more than likely not the case here, which would maybe make us feel better about Giannis having less infusion on his production while he's out there. Middleton and Giannis played a little bit of overlap last game, but not a ton. So if Middleton doesn't start again, then yeah, Giannis looks even better than normal. And then Drew Holiday's just kind of hard to get through with a lot of warm and fuzzies, getting towards a 40 fantasy point projection, but past Giannis Antetokounmpo, I'm not going to have a ton of high hopes. One thing I do want to look at from that last Bucks game is, remember, that was the first game with the Bobby Portis injury, and since Serge Ibaka is essentially a holdout as they work to find him a trade, I was wondering what that would mean, who would benefit from it on the second unit. We speculated maybe Jordan Nwora. Well, he got just 6 minutes of play in that game, and then kind of looking through, we got Joe Ingles with 25 plus minutes, Wesley Matthews 15 minutes. So if I'm reading between the lines, I think the main beneficiary is maybe Giannis Antetokounmpo. More time in the front court for him in some of those lineups where they can spread out a little bit more. With that said, it was a who's who of who's that on the Denver Nuggets. That was that game where everyone rested. Jokic was down, Jamal Murray was down, and they ran out a starting lineup that involved Christian Braun, Zeke Naji, Vlatko Cankart. So there is some wiggle room, but the Pacers are generally small, and especially if they can't go without Miles Turner. So because Jordan Nwora was not a big part of the rotation in the first game without Bobby Portis, I think I'm just going to kind of assume that I'm just going to play more Giannis at the 5, and maybe Brook Lopez's minutes are safer to be in the 30-plus threshold, right? And that was a competitive game for what it's worth, right? Yeah, an 8-point game. So I think it's fair to kind of run back something similar in terms of minute projection. And then also 38 minutes there for Pat Connaughton, and he had a pretty decent game. So maybe Connaughton's one of those beneficiaries by domino effect for this absence of Bobby Portis. So I think we pumped the brakes on being over intrigued with Jordan Nwora, or just trying to giga brain the the payoff for Bobby Portis' absence and just kind of wait and see. On the Pacer side, if everything is as is, TJ McConnell on DraftKings at 6,500. That's kind of been his new home, and that's a price that he just keeps delivering on, right? 30, 45, 55, 18 against Denver in just 19 minutes. If we can get that minute projection to 30, and I think it's easier to get to that 30 without Nembhard than with, but it's still not impossible without, then I think a point per minute is a reasonable projection. So I think the FanDuel price point is probably above my comfort zone, but on DraftKings, I'm still invested at 6,500, and I think it's worth going to run an NBA Wowie on McConnell here in this split just to kind of get some actual data, right? Some actual data for us to go off of. So we'll just do McConnell without Halliburton, nothing else. It is a little bit over a fantasy point per minute with 18% usage, but a 44% assist rate. And then if we were to, I guess, take Nembhard off the court, his point per minute goes up a little bit, and the assist rate still at 47%. So really good point per minute production type of guy. Like I said, I think the FanDuel price point's enough to spook me away. We'll see if McConnell continues to grab pretty elevated ownership. It's one of those things where the field's been going to him at 40, 50, 60%, and he keeps rewarding the field. So I wonder, at what point do they quit on him? And I don't know that his price has moved dramatically enough on DraftKings to have the field quit on him. Now, with that 40+% assist rate, I am intrigued to see what his assist prop is over on PrizePicks. It looks like it is 9 assists. So, 9 assists, that's beatable, right? 8 assists against Orlando, 10, 12, that 40+% assist rate, that's better than, that's like Tyrese Halliburton levels of production, right? If we look at, I'll put Halliburton in the bottom here just to get you his official assist percentage. Halliburton has a 46% assist rate. McConnell's at 40%. Like that, it's not 1-to-1 in terms of replacing that production, but that's high levels of assist rate. That's Chris Paul's, right? That's James Harden, guys like that. So below 10 is definitely doable, especially with this total being what it is, and with the Pacers game script being pick up the pace because of this implied play from behind game script. So I might get on some McConnell assist props. I'll leave it at that for now. And then Buddy Hield, 6,100. So if we're going to paint a picture where the Pacers stay competitive, stay within 10, hit a 120-ish, 110 to 120 implied total, who's going to do the scoring? Well, we know McConnell's probably going to do the facilitating. I think Buddy Hield, Miles Turner, and Benedict Mathurin are the 3 likeliest guys to do the scoring. Buddy Hield has certainly been consistently inconsistent, but when he does hit 20-plus points, 19, 22 in his last couple games, and you're going to expect double-digit shot attempts, and you're going to probably expect 70 to 80% of those shot attempts to be from behind the arc, which is pretty convenient because the last couple of years we've known to attack the Milwaukee Bucks with 3-point shooters, and a lot of it's because of, one, their interior defense funneling those shot attempts to the outside, and 2, they're always playing with a lead, so teams feel more obligated to shoot the 3. So in this situation, if I'm trying to attack scorers for the Pacers, maybe more so for prop betting than DFS, I think Buddy Hield has to be a candidate for us there. So looking over at the PrizePicks board for Buddy Hield, do we have a 3-point prop? We do not, but we have him at 32.5 fantasy points with 18.5 points. So that's right on the nose, like right on the nose. Where are the Bucks officially in terms of 3 points allowed per game? 3-point allowed per game. Milwaukee, they're below league average this year. Last year they were like top 3, so they've definitely trended in the right direction for that. But I still think the volume will be there. So I would like to see a 3-point prop open up on Buddy Hield. I would assume that it would be closer to 3.5 than 2.5, and maybe they don't offer that. What's it looking like over here? Wait, can I close this? So let's go to Milwaukee. Wow, chat. Sorry, I just did a lot of rambling. My bad. Get caught up on chat. What up, Kyle Stoppa? Hope you're doing all right. Conscious in the chat. Sean V in the chat. Brad Trumbly says, do you think 7,400 on FanDuel is too much for McConnell? If Nembhard is out, I still feel like it's too much. I do. I don't think it's efficient, right? It's at worst correct, or maybe at best correct, where 40 plus is the expectation. And I think my likelihood of getting there would be more so based on his projected ownership, right? Hammer Don. Yeah, what up, Daniel Barry? Hope you're doing all right. I don't think 40 from McConnell is out of the ordinary. No, I think it's almost the expectation, but on FanDuel, it's borderline the requirement. What up, Kay Johnson? Hope you're doing all right. Narrative failed. Who would have thought? Drew probably locked that down. So, I mean, with McConnell, it's not like he's forced to accrue a lot of his fantasy points from offense, right? Does a lot of the hustle stats, peripheral steals, and assists. So I don't necessarily shy away from a great defender, even though I think it's overrated to run from guys based on an individual defender anyway, because you can always just scheme out of it. But I think just the basic thought of I can't play McConnell because of Drew doesn't really match up well, in my opinion. What am I doing here? Let's go look at player props for... I wanted to look at Buddy Hield threes, right? Where would that be at? Player props. Player points. Boy, they changed this lately, huh? Player made threes. That's what I wanted. What did I just miss? Yo, Jack. I appreciate the follow. Hope you're doing all right today. Internet to listen to Adam and Josh. Yeah. It's certainly looking like it's trended way better than it was. So Buddy Hield in some places is at 4.5, but I think 3.5 would be the fair market line. So if PrizePicks did drop a line for threes, it would probably be 3.5 for Buddy Hield, which is not out of the question because of how many threes he's likely to take. They might be waiting on Nembhard status before they release a line like that. But I think it's fair to expect 10 plus threes from Buddy Hield here, but his efficiency is always wide open. So it's probably not something I'm going to get behind, right? Get caught up. Get up. Go. I owe you an apology for seeing this cat skirt. What up, KJ? Thoughts on Jarrett Allen and Mobley stack? I'll get there in a second. Mobley's going to, like yesterday, be probably my preferred guy out of the bunch, but we'll dig into that, right? All right, cool. So let's move on to the next game, right? Do we have anything else to type on that? Remember, just everyone's questionable for the Pacers, and then we'll go from that, you know? Timberwolves hosting the Memphis Grizzlies. Project 35 for the Grizzlies. John Morant, Desmond Bane, Dylan Brooks, Jaren Jackson Jr., Brandon Clark taking on D'Angelo Russell. Crossing over with Anthony Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Kyle. The Andersons got tickets to the game. How'd they get tickets? And Rudy Gobert, 238.5 total, 3-point spread in favor of the visiting Memphis Grizzlies. So tags on Desmond Bane and Rudy Gobert. So let's get down to the bottom on those two. So Desmond Bane certainly would open up maybe a little bit more stabilized scoring for John Morant and Dylan Brooks. He's dealing with a right knee soreness. All right, cool. And then Conchair still down with a concussion protocol. And Minnesota, Rudy Gobert. We've seen him miss some games this season, but I think he's been back lately. Gobert is questionable with right groin soreness. He's back on the injury report, which will likely be the case for the foreseeable future. Blah blah blah. He's played the last couple games, right? Am I mistaken? 25th, 23rd. Yeah, so I would assume that he's closer to in than out, but they're just keeping that as a precaution. So I'm not going to get too invested in the thought of Naz Reid. We got 238 total, so plenty of implied points. If Bane can't go, I think it's fair for us to go run a Wowie and just kind of set the expectations, or maybe just kind of look at what has happened for the Grizzlies, at least this season, in that split. So we're going to put Dylan Brooks, John Morant, and Bane on. I'm not going to take off Steven Adams. He's kind of a non-factor in terms of usage, and he's been such an Iron Man that it's going to extremely dilute the minutes. But I guess it should be noted that Brandon Clark's maybe a little bit more offensive or more skilled offensively, that if it degraded some of these numbers going forward, I wouldn't be stunned if he starts. So with these three on, we've got a 25% usage rate on Desmond Bane, 34% on Ja Morant, and just a 16% on Dillon Brooks, with Dillon Brooks being a 0.7 fantasy point per minute producer and Ja Morant at 1.4. So now, in the interest of this injury report, let's take Desmond Bane off for this split and just kind of see what kind of trickle effect it might have going forward for Ja and or Dillon Brooks. Ja's steady Eddie's 1.4 fantasy points per minute, 36% usage, and then Dillon Brooks takes a big step forward from a 16% usage to a 24% usage, but kind of like the Jalen Green effect here, just because the usage goes up doesn't necessarily mean the consistency in fantasy point per minute goes up. He's at just a 0.84 fantasy point per minute, but I think that one has a lot of volatility. Some games that's going to be over 1, some games that's going to be, below this 0.8. So I do think he becomes intriguing, but understand the volatility that would come with him. But it looks like no matter what, Ja Morant's safe, but perhaps safer or even more safe if we lose Desmond Bane here against the T-Wolves. And I think the T-Wolves are good enough to keep this game competitive that we're not worried about the scoreboard getting lopsided. Looking back at Jaren Jackson here, Jaren Jackson's at a 19% usage rate, 1.1 fantasy point per minute, with a lot of his fantasy points coming from peripheral and hustle stats such as blocks. So it's not like he's taking a huge net gain in terms of usage if Bane misses. But I do think at 6,600 on DraftKings, there's a ceiling to be had there, and 40 plus at 6,600 is a reasonable range of outcome that I would probably want some exposure to. We're wrestling with what to project in this front court, and the short answer is I really don't know. Right? Memphis last game started Brandon Clark, and then the game prior they started Xavier Tillman. So at least it's safe to assume that those are the two possible outcomes today, is Clark or Tillman, and I think Clark is probably the more talented. And if we lose a Bane, I would probably expect Clark being the starter, which is purely speculative at its core, but that would be my guess. So if Clark did start 4,900 on DraftKings, it's going to look decently well enough that I probably want to get some exposure to. But against Rudy Gobert, we might have tapered expectations. But Ja Morant, gonna like him quite a bit. On the T-Wolves side, Anthony Edwards, 9,200 on FanDuel, 9K on DraftKings. A lot of minutes coming his way in the projection. Referencing the player projections here, I'm gonna see how far we gotta go down before we get to Anthony Edwards. Looks like I got him right outside the top 6, top 7, and that's gonna be behind a way more popular Darius Garland, who's $700 cheaper, and then he's probably the best raw point versus price point option, right, at 9K. Everybody else other than Darius Garland is essentially 9,500 or better. So it becomes a pivot to some of the more trendy options here. I don't know what kind of ownerships we might be expected for Edwards, but he usually doesn't garner a ton because he also has a volatile range of outcomes. So we're getting close to 1 in 5 lineups having Anthony Edwards, so it's higher than I thought, but it's also kind of par for the course for a 5-game slate. Looking at this stretch for the Minnesota Timberwolves, we'll put Edwards on. We'll just put Cat off, right? We don't need to get too crazy. I guess we could leave Russell on just to really paint that. Most people have the misconception that just because someone is heavily owned that they should get less of that player. When someone's a good play, you want them, you can differentiate elsewhere. I would agree with that. I do think people instantly scoff at chalk, and I get it, right? Uniqueness is very valuable, especially if you've grinded like showdowns or easily duplicated lineup sports. But I would say, like, if you're a single entry or a 3 entry or a 20 entry max player, and you don't have the tools to look at, simulations and bust potential, blah 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 blah. Even just kind of creating an obscure number in your mind as a starting point. For instance, like tonight, Darius Garland we'll talk about him, but he's at the 8K range, but probably no Donovan Mitchell. What's the percentage of times on a 5-game slate that Darius Garland drops 45 fantasy points or more, considering what's before him? And if your answer is like, oh, I think he's going to hit that at least half of the time, 60% of the time, and then you kind of use that number as a baseline for what would be over or under owned based on his field ownership, right? So let's say he's 40% owned, but I think 60% of the time he's a great play. Well, then I think he's under owned based on my obscure number, right? So when you open the book and you see a player at 40% owned, you're like instantly scoff, oh man, he's too high owned, I gotta fade that. Well, relative to his chances of success, maybe he's not necessarily over owned. He's still high owned, yes, and there's still merit to being contrarian based on your risk tolerance and your style of play, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to avoid that. What was I doing? I was doing Edwards on, D-Russ on, Cat off. Edwards has a 28% usage rate, so below 30%, and about a 1.16 fantasy point per minute. So yeah, I mean, he has that pivot potential versus some of the other 9K plus guys on the slate. Certainly don't think he hits optimal as much, and I think his floor is probably a little bit lower than we would want. But based on your risk tolerance, understanding ranges of outcomes, there's certainly 50 plus fantasy point potential, something we've seen in 3 games straight, that he could tap into. 2 of those games really, really favorable in terms of strength of schedule. Memphis, #1 defense on the board, so we have to take that with a grain of salt. While the Houston Rockets are like a bottom 3 defense on the board, strength of schedule does mean something here. But there is an above 0% chance that he drops 50. So I'm somewhat interested in Edwards. If I had to tier him right now, it would be tier 3. And that's it, right? Anything else you guys want to? Oh, Kyle Anderson. You guys have mentioned Kyle Anderson a few times. So going to that split, let's put Kyle Anderson on the board. Anderson has a 13% usage rate. That's almost nothing. That's really low. And you guys, somebody was in on his real points. Okay. So let's look at this. Kyle Anderson. And then while we're there, I mean, still 0.9 fantasy point per minute. So just because of low usage doesn't necessarily mean you can't be played for fantasy, especially if you have a healthy minute projection at a decent price. So like 5,500 for 33 to 36 minutes at 0.9 fantasy point per minute. That's not off limits at all. But somebody was specifically on his points, and I don't remember who, but shot volume 6, 3, 7. I don't think I could co-sign that. Whoever was asking me about that, 9.5. It's a really low line. I get it. Maybe a little revenge narrative, cool. But if he's more likely to cross paths with guys like Jaren Jackson, Dylan Brooks, I mean, those are strong defenders. I do think maybe there's a lateral to a backstep on defense without Steven Adams. It's still a tough defense. So it's hard for me to get warm and fuzzy on a guy that has a 13% usage against that matchup. So I can't co-sign that, but it'll be all right. Heat hosting the Magic, next game on the docket. So we got a game at lock, 30 minutes later, another game, 30 minutes later, another game, another couple games. So Magic projects starting 5, Markelle Fultz, Gary Harris, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, Wendell Carter Jr. taking on Kyle Lowry, Tyler Hero, Caleb Martin, Jimmy G, buckets, and Bam Adebayo. We've got Strus is questionable, Jovic, Duncan, Yurtseven, Chuma Okeke, and Jonathan Isaac all listed as out. 219 is our total, 8.5 point spread in favor of the Miami Heat. So this is going to be a super slow pace game in terms of team metrics. The Miami Heat have the 3rd slowest pace rating in all of basketball, and the Orlando Magic are below league average. So net negative in terms of pace and defensive rating. Miami Heat have a top 4 defensive rating in all of basketball. So we can't expect much offensively for the Orlando Magic. So this is I'm going to say stay away game because it is a 5-game slate, but this is going to be a game that I don't have high hopes, especially at these FanDuel prices. We're talking over 7K for Markelle Fultz, over 7K for Wagner, over 7K for Banchero. Yeah, the isolate these players and their usage can get there individually in a vacuum, and maybe you kind of set some rules to allow that. I would probably, right now, if I had to set some blanket rules, I'd probably set a max of one Magic player in a lineup in Cruncher, and kind of go from there. The DraftKings prices are a little bit more intriguing if you believe in just being contrarian on a 5-game slate. We're talking almost a $2,000 discount on DraftKings versus FanDuel for Fultz, almost $1,000 for Wagner, $500 for Banchero, $900, almost $1,000 for Carter. So the DraftKings prices look a little bit more inviting, but no warm and fuzzies through and through. On the Heat side, Kyle Lowry still on the south side of 5K. I mean, it's hard for that to not continue to project decently enough. Unfortunately, I don't disagree with it. 19, 28, 13, 25, 19 fantasy points this last couple of games. Not necessarily shooting at a high volume. This Boston game, I believe Jimmy Butler was down, and they were facing the backups of the backups for Boston, and he just didn't have it, and he's not playing deep minutes. Earlier this season, we saw a stretch where 34 plus minutes of Kyle Lowry, 39 minutes in some cases was happening. That's not really what's been going on as of late either. So with Victor Oladipo getting healthier, with Tyler Hero healthy, and them having enough guards in that rotation where Lowry's bowing out in terms of usage, it's hard to get warm and fuzzy there. FanDuel makes it easier to look the other way for me, but FanDuel still leaves a range of outcome, or at least a reasonable range of outcomes, or DraftKings rather, a reasonable range of outcomes to pay out $4,700, but I don't think it has to be a high priority. So I'll probably drop them in the risky value bucket and kind of go from there. Jimmy Butler has really enticing price points on both sites, 86 on FanDuel, 7,600 on DraftKings, really, really low for what we know his ceiling can be. I think it's fair to come over here to Wowie and do a on-off tool, just putting kind of like everyone on. I think Hero, Adebayo, and Butler are the most intriguing ones for me. I think these guys will play, they all have a shot for 35 plus minutes. So just kind of see how they have coexisted this season. And it's been pretty neutral. I mean, this is like old Celtics usage rates, right? Everyone's at 22 to 25%. And about 1 to 1.1 fantasy point per minute. So neutral in terms of comfort, but if we spike one guy, we start looking at the range of outcomes, or the randomness, right? The margin of difference, or the percentile outcomes. Yeah, there's a percentile outcome, or there's a range of outcomes for Jimmy Butler to average 1.2 to 1.3 fantasy point per minute here, while a Hero goes to a 0.8, something like that. I think the price point on Jimmy Butler is so intriguing. I'm knocking on the door of around 40 fantasy points. So I'm going to get there. I think I'll max, like if I had a blanket rule them, I'll probably max the Heat at 2 in a lineup, just because it's a 5-game slate. And as I said at the top of the stream, these smaller slates, I tend to allow floor into my heart a little bit quicker than usual versus the 10-game slate where I really want ceiling. I just think they're underpriced individually. So I'll get there on that, but no warm and fuzzies on the Magic. So if I had to create a podium for the Heat, I think it's Butler 1, Hero 2, Adebayo 3. Even though Adebayo really has the highest usage of that 3. That's intriguing, and Butler has the highest assist rate. So maybe I'm wrong here, but I think price wise I'll go Butler 1, Hero 2, and then Adebayo. But those are 3 I definitely want involved in my player pool. Yeah, that's all we got. Yo, what up, Doug? Hope you're doing all right. What up, Shane? What up, Rashad? Cavs and Thunder for all the money. Yeah, I think that's where it's the natural tendency to kind of steer in that direction, This man giving us free breakdowns and picks. Sub to the channel. Throw that. Yeah, man. I appreciate it. If you guys are out there lurking, you're not subbed yet, have I earned your sub? Hit that sub button, man. I would appreciate it. If you hit that thumbs up, dude, that'd be cool, too. Last couple streams, we have hit the 100 like goal. So if you guys can help us meet our goal of 100 likes, I would appreciate it. I also want to say that earlier today, I did record a video And it might drop tonight after lock or in the morning. I haven't decided yet. I have to polish it a little bit. I started editing it, but the title of the video is going to be how to hack the DraftKings lobby. So if you want to get notified when that video comes out, make sure you subscribe and make sure you hit that bell below to get that push notification when that video does go live. My problem with that video right now is it's sitting about 13-14 minutes. I would love to get it closer to 8 minutes, maybe even 10 minutes, because you guys are the microwave generation. But it is coming. It is completely filmed and ready to go. Not ready to go, but it is already recorded. Ugh. What am I missing? Smash that like harder than baddies into the mattress. If you're smashing baddies into cardboard boxes, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Carter Jr. rebounds over. All right. Against the Heat, man, that's a tough ask. I guess we'll look at let's just analyze the matchup. I'm gonna assume, Mr. Bennett, that I'm not gonna get to a strong over agreement here, but 8.5 rebounds is the line. 28, 33 minutes last couple games, 31 minutes. So we'll say there's a 28 to 33 minute window. Has exceeded 8 rebounds in 3 games straight, but we're talking the Pacers, meh. Boston, I think, was shorthanded. Was that a game where Robert Williams missed? Maybe. Washington. What I'm trying to get at is the matchup today is a little bit more stringent than some of these previous matchups. And then just kind of looking at team metrics here. Let's see, Miami, when it comes to total rebounding, Miami's not that high in terms of rebound rate. They're basically league average. They are top 5 in defensive rebound rate. And because of how slow this pace is, you know, the 30 minutes parlayed with a very low amount of implied possessions, I don't really think that's one that I could get behind with any sort of confidence. But if you've got that feeling in your bad knee, go for it. How do you feel about Isaiah Joe? Is his shooting volume as of late? We'll get there in a second. No Dort, maybe. I'll try and connect the dots here in a minute. So let's move on. We only have 2 games left. So we knock out a plug. Let's knock out a plug. Let's do the PrizePicks plug because, you know, we love PrizePicks. Shout out to PrizePicks, presenting sponsor of the channel. If you guys aren't on PrizePicks, you should be. Last night, we came up with 3 picks. Every single one of them hit. Obviously, not every night's going to be a perfect night, but it's fun when they do hit. And it's a good way to reward your research to a more controlled extent where you don't have to sweat backup chalk at 9:30 when you've already went out with the wife and kids. This is a way to simplify the sweat and kind of already add to what you're already working on, right? So we spend all day researching. Sometimes we can't play everybody, or sometimes, like last night, Terry Rozier looked like he was in a spot that should excel in terms of 3-point shooting. So if you're not on PrizePicks yet and you've been thinking about it, well, today's the day to sign up. If you sign up and use code GUNDACKER, I'll put a link in the chat. They will double your first deposit up to $100. So take advantage of every promo offer you can in this space, including deposit bonuses. And you don't have to max out if you're balling on a budget. Don't worry about spending $100 just to get $200. But hey, a $10 bill becomes a $20 bill. You can go out there and fire off a couple $5 cards, or on happy hour, you could throw some $1 cards, or $40 becomes $80. You know what I'm saying? Just take advantage of it. And then just know when you do sign up using my code, that helps them continue to support the channel and continue to present these streams to you guys. Faux frizzle, free 99 plus tax. All right, next game on the docket, Cavs at the Thunder. Project starting 5 for the Cavs. Darius Garland, Karis LeVert, Isaac Okoro, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen taking on SGA, Josh Giddey, Aaron Wiggins, Jalen Williams, Kenrich Williams. They got 221.5 total, 1.5 point spread in favor of the Oklahoma State Thunder. So they are catching the Cavs on night 2 of a back-to-back. The Cavs being a slight road dog here. That's maybe somewhat staggering to the eyes. Not used to seeing the Thunder favorited, but it is a tough spot, I guess, schedule-wise, if nothing else, for the Cavs. And is this a 3 and 4? Let me see. It is a third game in 4 nights as well, so it is potentially a schedule trap. So something to deal with, something to wrestle with. But let's focus on the controllables. What we do know is Kevin Love is out, and Donovan Mitchell, much like last night, not expected to play, so we'll list him doubtful and not include him in the projections. And we'll go back to that Wowie, and we'll throw that split out there. So we'll put Garland on, and what we learned yesterday was that it was Garland 1, Evan Mobley 2, and then LeVert, and ownership did not reflect that yesterday. LeVert was significantly higher owned than Mobley. Mobley had ownership, don't get me wrong, but it certainly looked like the field was not smartened up to the fact that Mobley's number 2 in the per minute production and the usage here. Oh, I forgot to take off Donovan. So in this split, 277 minutes, we've got a 27% usage rate on Darius Garland, 24.5% usage rate on Evan Mobley, which is higher than Karis LeVert, who is at 21%. So still usable, but Mobley and Garland are the top 2 fantasy point per minute accruers. 1.1 fantasy point per minute for Evan Mobley, and $1.25 on Darius Garland. Last night there was no Kevin Love again, so that does kind of beef in the front court minute projections in competitive game. Last night was not really a competitive game. How did that impact Mobley in the fourth quarter? Let me see. Cleveland, I guess the final score is closer than the actual score was. The cleanup crew came in and played about 3.5 to 4 minutes. So we might have got an extra 3-4 minutes for them. Mobley played 33 minutes. So if we gave him another 3 minutes, 36, 37 minutes. Same with Jared Allen, 37, 38 minutes. So if you're buying into this 1 point spread, maybe there's a couple minutes left on the board versus what we saw last night. And then did anyone in particular benefit from the Kevin Love minutes? Jetty Osman, Dean Wade, maybe? Let's see. There was a stretch here for, looks like at all times until the game was over, there was always one of Jared Allen or Evan Mobley, I guess, at the 5. So there's that. So I guess there wasn't really like a direct hit. So I guess Jetty Osman and Dean Wade would be the 2 guys I look at if I wanted to get there. But I don't really think that I want to get there. So all that to say this, we should be playing Evan Mobley under 7K on DraftKings, coming in with a 40 fantasy point projection in a super positive matchup. Much like yesterday, all of the matchups are really positive for the Thunder, the Oklahoma City Thunder. However, in particular against power forwards, top 10, and also top 10 in terms of fantasy points allowed to opposing centers. So good spot for Mobley, no matter which side or which front court position he does play. And then he becomes more involved offensively. 17 shot attempts last night, and then we talked about his usage being second on the team. So maybe we can take advantage of some point props. I don't know, what do you guys think? 18.5 is his point prop. Let's see. How could we maybe dumb that down? Evan Mobley points by game log without Donovan Mitchell last 10 games. Jalen Green is out. That's for Saturday. So 3 of the last 4 games for Evan Mobley without Donovan Mitchell, he has scored 18 or more or real points. And considering the matchup, including one of them against OKC, maybe this would be an early lean. Oh, I guess it's 18.5. I'm kind of interested in that. Also at 39.5 fantasy points. That's on the nose of what I got. Did we teeter-totter? Let me see. What's the model say for Mobley points? Mobley Yeah, the points is actually under, but I disagree with that based on these metrics. And even though he's playing, like, they overlap him and Allen in the front court, remember, it's not Kevin Love's high shot volume, high usage per minute coming out, so a couple more opportunities for him. So I'm kind of interested in the real points for Mobley, but I probably won't list it for now. Did they stop doing double-double props? They did, huh? That was a fun one last year. All right, so on the Thunder side, with Lou Dort being out, and I guess he's more involved than I give him credit for. I know he represents a lot of minutes, but double-digit shot attempts coming off the board and about 30 minutes, sometimes 30 plus. What does that do for us, if anything? I think the Thunder are so predictably unpredictable that past SGA and Josh Giddey, I really don't want to marry myself to any of these guys because there's only two guys that are really quote-unquote safe, especially like the front court second half. But just out of curiosity, just take Dort off, put SGA and Giddey on. Gives us a 1.5 fantasy point per minute production in less than 100 minutes of sample size, but that's still pretty stout. With a 36% usage rate for SGA. And then Giddey's a little over 1. What is that with Dort? 1.5 is a staggering number, but it's possible that that's just like normal. Let me see. Dort 1.7. So yeah, it's actually a pretty tangible. So it's a quarter. So that is a pretty tangible adjustment. Like in the sense of per minute. I do think the lack of minutes is enough to make this a fluky sample size. Out of curiosity, let's go back to the beginning of last season. It'll show Wiggins, man. The last game against they closed with Baisley. Okay. Not a ton more sample size, but it does dilute the per minute production. But yeah, it does bring on the likes of Darius Baisley, Jeremiah Robinson Earl is not on the team anymore. Pakusevsky, who's out. All right. So we didn't really accomplish much from that. It's a frustrating thing. So I want SGA. I do. Where's SGA at? He's right below John Morant in raw projection. And Steph Curry's Siakam Giannis. And right above Garland, but Garland's giving us a $1,600 discount. What are you guys doing with the Thunder? I just don't want to deal with the headache, man. I don't like picking on the Cavs front court. I don't like targeting the Thunder front court because Kenrich Williams is live to start the game and then get benched for Mike Muscala at halftime. I might just I just might wash my hands of it. You said Baisley closed out for the Thunder last game. It's such an unreliable thing to do with the Thunder, more than any other team. To chase what they did do recently, because each game is like a snowflake for them, right? God Lord, I mean this is a joke. It's a joke. I think we throw Giddey. I think to cast the net over the chaos and try to have some control. First of all, we want to know who's the official starting lineup. But secondly, I might just throw all these bums in a group on Fantasy Cruncher and be like, yo, I don't want more than 2 of these bums. You know what I mean? Like, they'll probably all project decently well, and at best it's a tough matchup. But it's just so much volatility within them. So, like, if I threw a Wiggins, Isaiah Joe, Trey Mann, Jalen Williams, Kenrich Williams in a group together and said, I don't want more than 2 of these guys, and just kind of dim down the risk, and I think it's not even crazy to go more than one of those guys for like 20 entry. I don't know. You guys have leans, gut calls for the Thunder? I'm open to my ears. I'm open to suggestions. Back-to-back a concern at all for the Cavs? Yeah, it's a back-to-back, a 3rd and 4, all travel, and they're short Donovan Mitchell, and it's a 1-point spread. So certainly Looks like a potential schedule trap spot. What's up, Nate D? Hope you're doing all right. What up, Chris? Kenrich Williams is a great play in your opinion. I mean, he projects well, right? And if you look at games where Kenrich Williams has started and then like not started the second half, what's an example? Pacers maybe. It's been a while. I can't really pull that out of my pocket, but like I think it's fair to get to a 30-minute projection on Kenrich Williams. I don't think it's a plus matchup by any stretch though, going against the Cavs front court. But he's priced at a point at 4K, 4,400 that on the 5-game slate, if he offered 24 fantasy points, it might be enough. So I certainly think he like leads the charge of my favorite options in the Thunder cesspool of potential value. But I would also want to see his name listed as the starter, you know? Isaiah Joe starting. I really don't have a lean. I pulled this from RotoWire. And they had Aaron Wiggins. So I think it's it's fair to do whatever. I don't know. What's other lineup sources that we might have? Roto Grinders? What are they listing? Let's see. Roto Grinders. Let's put it up on the main page. Roto Grinders has Aaron Wiggins as well. So like obviously it's a Thunder. Anything could happen. So we'll have to play that by ear. What up, M? Is it just M? Dort Giddy. What's up, Gambit of All? Zeus Q. I don't know what I just read, but it's okay. On the screen, you gotta understand it looks a little different. So shout out to M. Somebody got message retracted. If you're not playing Giannis and SGA and Giddy look good. Do you expect playing those guys together? Do we think that that's the best move? I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just thinking out loud here, you know, as a group. Would you guys have any hesitance on a 5-game slate to put both Giddy and SGA in the same lineup? 38, 35, 38, 43. So we'll look at his spike games. 43 and 52 at this price point. That's Indiana and Brooklyn, 18th and the 15th. Just in contrast to SGA, what did he put up on the 15th and the 18th? 41, 42. So obviously it's not gospel, but is it less likely for a Giddy ceiling game to coincide with a SGA floor game that maybe it's negatively correlated to be putting both those guys in the same lineup? I feel like on FanDuel, it seems like yes, but I'm just thinking out loud. I don't disagree with what you're saying, though. I think they both are intriguing, especially if we funnel more offense and uses to the outside. SGA is clearly my favorite out of the bunch, but I think it's worth asking yourself, do you really want Giddy and SGA in the same lineup? You said you were on Mobley points. Travis, I think I am. So, and that's just the fact that he's second in usage, and the matchup so pure that I think if he had 20 real points, like I see it. I think the line is appropriate. In my model, I actually had him for under the line, but I'm interested in it. Their fantasy point projections is too close to mine for me to attack anything else, but I'm kind of involved. With no Kevin Love, second in usage, tight spread here. It's not a strong lean, but it's a lean. But we'll see if it's yeah. Josh says Claypool, Draymond Green, and Van Vliet over fantasy. Butler under points. Kyle Anderson over points. John Morant under assists. So Josh, I just kind of went over Kyle Anderson's points prop. I know it's low, but do you have a reason why you're on Kyle Anderson over points? Because he has a ridiculously low usage rate, and the matchup is not great. So I'm not disagreeing, and I'm not telling you not to bet it. I'm just kind of curious how you landed there, right? You know, what kind of process brought you on Kyle Anderson's over? It's Zeus Q. You should try. Oh, man. Okay. All right. Name is M on here. I appreciate you stopping by, M. Yeah, way back when we used to have wide open chats. Giannis smashed tonight. Pacers have actually played a lot better over the past week despite still losing. Should be competitive. Yep. Doing Mobley fantasy points over. I think that's fair. Basketball Monster has Jalen Williams as the center starting. So they have Jalen Williams. Wait. Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, it's all over the place. And like I said, it's the Thunder. They've done that all year. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm pretty sure no other team in basketball has had as many starting fives as the Thunder have. Like, I feel like it's not even close. This game just happened on December 10th. Mitchell didn't play and the Cavs looked good. OKC did too, but no Dort or Pacu, so just, yep. I like Kyle Anderson today as well. So, Doug, I know you're pretty... And so I do want to say that the Kyle Anderson question was on the point prop over that was recommended in chat. I'm not anti-Kyle Anderson for DFS. But the question for me is what process got you to Kyle Anderson over points? And I'm not saying don't play it. I'm just genuinely curious, like, how are we confident in that one, right? So, heck, just put Kyle Anderson on, Cat off, and then put, I guess, Edwards on and Ross. And I basically just did this like 20 minutes ago. Kyle Anderson has a 13.4% usage rate, which is lower than Rudy Gobert, lower than Jaden McDaniels. Essentially, he would be fifth in usage on the starting five. And if you look at his last couple games, that's consistent with his shot volume: 6 shots, 3 shots, 7 shots, 0 points, 2 points, 10 points. So I'm just wondering how, like, why we're confident in him to score over 9 real points. With that said, just fantasy point per minute, 0.9. Like, that's completely fine for DFS. But that question was geared towards the point prop, you know? All right, we got one game left on the docket. Remind you guys that the VIP All-Star Pass, which is all things VIP until the All-Star break for baseball in July, I believe it's July 11th, is live, and it is a brand new price of $299. So $300 gets you locked in until July. That'll get you the first half of baseball, the rest of NBA, the rest of football. We're gonna have a little bit of NASCAR content, but I don't want to advertise it as a obligated expectation. And if you lock into that, you also get a $100 credit towards Fantasy Cruncher. We also discounted the year pass down now that we've gone a month in, so $500 gets you in for the entire year, and that comes with a $150 credit towards Fantasy Cruncher. I can't recommend these two enough. I think these are our best value if you are grinding long term. And then when you do upgrade, scroll up this page right here, the VIP portal should open up for you. The main link I want you to click is the VIP Discord link. That'll get you here. There'll be a welcome channel, and we got new members. What up, Zan? What up, ACP? I'll be in the pre-lock Discord, but the spreadsheet links can be accessed in the Discord for football, for NBA, and then of course for baseball. And the pre-lock voice chats are kind of what stands out for me versus others, because not gonna lie, it's hard to offer what everybody else is offering, but what I can offer is me, right? 2 hours before lock, just about every day. I do tend to take Sundays off as my 1 day a week, but go check that out, and then go rebate it down, get your Fantasy Cruncher pass. And if you got questions, as a matter of fact, somebody just messaged me a minute ago. If you're watching, I'll get to you after the stream about how to redeem the Fantasy Cruncher voucher. I'll show you how. So go check that out. Main event tonight, Raptors at the Warriors. Projected starting five for the Raptors: Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent, OG Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam taking on Steph Curry, Jordan Poole, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, and Draymond Green. 235 total, 5-point spread in favor of the home team Golden State Warriors. Big news here. No, not really. Andrew Wiggins. How now? Brown Cow would be the main one. So going up to Golden State in the NBC Sports Edge depth chart. Jeez, right there. It's got a non-COVID illness. Sat out Wednesday, which thrusted Jonathan Kuminga into the start. So game off, got an illness at home. I'd probably lean him being closer to in than out. This game is 2 hours after the Thunder game, so there's a loose chance we wouldn't have definitive news on his status before every other game locked. But those are the cards we have to play with, and we're all playing from the same deck of cards. Matchup-wise, just the 5-point spread here for the Golden State Warriors. So I am somewhat inclined to like the Raptors just because of how high the minute projection is, right? We call it the predictive value in minutes. You're gonna get a lot of minutes from the Raptors, and Pascal Siakam is somebody that the projections are liking a lot for me. I got him at a 40-minute projection, 35 minutes against Sacramento, 34, 43, 41, 40. In a competitive ball game, there's a real chance that Siakam pushes that 40-minute threshold, and it's hard not to like 40 minutes of anybody, but especially somebody in a plus matchup, right? The pace really couldn't get any better of an uptick for him in our projections. The Raptors run at a 5th slowest pace in basketball, where the Warriors run at the fastest pace. So more implied possessions, and the game script puts the Raptors from behind, so a little bit more pep in their step down the line as the sense of urgency to score becomes higher and higher. So it's a really good spot for Siakam, and right now I have Siakam second in raw fantasy points, above Steph Curry, above Ja Morant. So there's a real case to get to Siakam at a high clip, in my opinion. 60 fantasy points against the Sacramento Kings. We saw 20-plus shot attempts, double-digit rebounds. The usage has been there. While we're talking about it, we can go do Siakam just on the season without really changing anything, because everyone's essentially healthy outside of like Bain, right? Siakam has led the Raptors in usage at 29.5%, a 28% assist rate. Like, he's super involved while also having 13% of total rebound opportunity. So pretty safe in terms of peripherals, pretty safe in terms of usage. And the Warriors, especially with Draymond in the front court, have been pretty attackable in the paint. So I like Siakam quite a bit. I think getting to 2 or 3 Raptors in lineups is something I won't overthink. I'd probably tier them or podium with Siakam at the top, and then somewhere between VanVleet, I'm probably VanVleet second, and then based on what we're looking at here, Scotty Barnes and Gary Trent second or third. Trent is interesting if we buy into the Raptors needing to score, and if his shot just got a little wet, you know what I'm saying, he'll take some threes. There's a double-digit 3-point attempt possibility out of a guy like Gary Trent. So that would probably be my ranking of them. Going over to the Warriors, it's always Steph Curry 1, but with this depth lineup being Curry, Poole, and Thompson, I think the volatility of who spikes game to game certainly is higher. And then, if Wiggins is in the mix, Wiggins versus Kuminga is a dramatic enough effect or lateral when it comes to points per game that it does matter. And since we're running the Wowies here, I am curious to see what that death squad looks like together. So I would imagine Curry's still up at the top. But man, Jordan Poole has shown that if he gets the ball, he's not always going to pass it to Steph Curry. And Steph Curry has shown that he's not always going to be happy about that. Steph Curry leads the trio in usage at 26%, Thompson at 25%, Jordan Poole at 18%. So I guess that would be the hierarchy. So it's a no-brainer to put Steph at 1. Dev, appreciate that sub. Hope you're having a good day. Draymond Green 6,200 on DraftKings. I'm willing to get there a little bit more. 7,100 on FanDuel is not fun at all. And if Wiggins was down, yeah, even more likely for me to get there. If Wiggins was rolled out later on in the night, Jonathan Kuminga's 4K. It's not going to be a fun spot in terms of matchup or projection. But 4K, that's right there with like the Kenrich Williams, stuff like that. That could give us 20 plus fantasy points of hustle stat. So I wouldn't point and laugh at you. All that to say this, I think the Warriors are the hardest to call team for me tonight. And as much as, as naked as I would feel without Steph Curry in battle tonight, if I went into 20 lineups tonight and had no Steph Curry, but instead had a ton of Darius Garland, a ton of John Moran at a similar price point, a ton of SGA, who in small sample size without Lou Dort, almost 1.4 fantasy point per minute, I think the process will allow me to sleep well no matter what. In 50 plus lineups on a 5-game slate, I gotta have some Steph Curry, but I could see myself, looking the other way just based on volatility in that starting lineup. So that's what I got there. We got a couple minutes. I want to get you guys out of here, and then I'll jump into the Discord. So forgive me if I missed much. Where are we at on likes? Hey, Trey Bailey, thank you for the sub. First 70 likes. Man, is there 30 of you guys that haven't hit that like button that can show me some love for blabbering the last 2 hours or hour and a half? I would appreciate it. Let me get caught up on chat, and then anything that I can wrap up, tie a bow on. What about tomorrow? Chat, you guys want to talk me into streaming tomorrow? Get to 100 likes. Right, now let me see what tomorrow's slate even looks like before I say that. Tomorrow for the main slate, there's a fat main slate. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. I was gonna take weekends off, so maybe maybe I stream, and I'm a lot more likely to stream tomorrow if we get to 100 likes. I'll say that. All right, getting caught up on chat. This game just happened. That was for the Cavs game. Beer Six Packs is Kyle Anderson. He likes Kyle Anderson. That's cool. And like I said, I think Kyle Anderson makes more sense for fantasy. But in the context of what I was bringing up was specifically on his real points being over-under, right? Aaron says, SGA or Greek tonight, Gun? I think SGA is 40% usage without Dort. Yeah. I think I would, in the interest of competitive basketball and price considered, I'd probably lean SGA because that's probably going to allow me to balance out my lineup a little bit more and be more likely to get a Garland and another mid to high price stud with Giannis. I almost feel like you start with grabbing 2 scrubs to offset his price point. So I probably lean that way in terms of lineup construction. But in terms of raw projection, Giannis is, 10 points above the rest. So, yeah. But I don't love the value with a lot of confidence right now. So I'd probably want to be more on the balance side from where we're at now. Thunder make a lineup, but if a player looks bad, he cuts them. Yeah, it's unpredictable. What are your thoughts on Isaiah Jackson or Jalen Smith, assuming one of them starts? I'm thinking no on FanDuel, but it's hard to get away from them on DK. Never mind, they both just yeah, I obviously I would lean towards the one that started, but yes, you're picking up a lot of foul risk just looking at their price points on DraftKings and FanDuel. The DraftKings price point is much harder to look away from, especially on Isaiah Jackson and Jalen Smith. Literally bare bones min. So if Naismith was down and Smith or Jackson drew the start, unfortunately, despite the matchup and despite their foul proneness, I'd still have to gamble on it at that price point. And I would imagine the field would also be heftily invested in that as well. Quan says, how late am I? You were pretty doggone late, but it's okay. The rewind button's there. I can't say that out loud, but that was funny. I like Boucher, 3,600, 20 plus minutes in the last 2 games. Man, I hate relying on Chris Boucher to even just be involved. This is one of the more volatile players, not on the Thunder, that can go from 20 minutes to DNP. But like I said, if you get that feeling in your bad knee and that's your way to get different on a slate like this, go for it. I'm not going to push you off or push you back on it. So, yeah. Salute. Clay for 18 lock. 18 real points. You like that, Elvis? I can get down with that. By the way, what's Toronto looking like in terms of 3-point defense? 3-point frequency is at 41%. So looking at that versus the NBA. So opposing teams shoot threes a top 10 amount in terms of percentage of shots taken from three. And then 3-pointer allowed per game is pretty good. And 3-pointers made per game is pretty good. But it's Steph Curry, Klay Thompson. We don't need to overthink that. Those guys are just sharpshooters. Do you like D'Angelo Russell? I haven't been playing him much, and I didn't really have a sharp take on him today. I guess I'm getting a decent projection off of him. And usually the Grizzlies funnel better fantasy games to the point guards because of their stout front court, right? Really strong at defending points in the paint. But a lot of that is Steven Adams. So maybe it kind of evens out in the wash. But yeah, I think the DraftKings price point on D'Angelo Russell's really good with some upside. Arnaldo Salcido, thank you so much for the sub. Thanks for the shout out yesterday. You gave some good advice and went forward for my picks. Let's go, J Business. Hope you're doing all right. What up, Casey Teat? Anunoby price seems nice. Yeah. Is it 6,900 or do you genuinely like it? 6,700. I'm getting a 30-plus fantasy point projection, and for tonight, I'm fine with that. Anunoby, I guess his real points is better than the perception we give him, but I think all of their real points are better because of how many minutes they play. But like the spike games, the high upside Anunoby games, usually come with a lot of steals and some blocks. So maybe if you were banking on a ceiling Anunoby game, you'd be maybe it wouldn't be a Steph Curry lineup because he's turning the ball over, at least for FanDuel. Any Precious Achua love on FanDuel? So you guys have mentioned Achua and Boucher. Achua. Let's see. $28 minutes alongside Boucher and Wancho. Why did Achua just close last game over Anunoby straight up? Was there something to that? Is any Toronto Raptors fans? There wasn't anything fishy there. Is that normal? Achua, and then Achua was. He started the game prior, and Anunoby was out that game. Is that right? And then the Celtics game. Achua. So I think the Achua minutes might look inflated if you're just looking at recent game log. Because there's no Van Vliet in this one. And then there was no Anunoby in this one. And then in the last game, it's regular starters, but Achua closed over Anunoby. I feel like that's not normal. So I do think it's interesting that Achua has been pretty involved, but it's also a spot where the Warriors, if they're playing with a lead, just kind of naturally force you to play small ball to keep up. And is that Achua's game? That would be Achua. I guess he could shoot some threes over Boucher. I don't know. I don't have a strong enough take to recommend it, but I would say at least be cognitive that his last three games, minute-wise, involve no Van Vliet, no Anunoby, and then closing over Anunoby. So if he went back to 14 or 18 minutes, understand that that's a range of outcome. OG's not happy in Toronto. I can see that. Listening to traffic. Hey, man, be safe out there, Ronaldo. Hey, guys, I got to get you out of here. I got to go get into the Discord. If you got anything else for me, twitter.com/Gundacker. Go check out the deeper dive. That should be starting right about now. And then, yeah, hey, I appreciate you making part of my afternoon, be part of your afternoon. As always, tell somebody out there you love them if you don't do nothing else today. I love you guys. Maybe, just maybe we'll see you tomorrow. 100 likes. Good luck. God bless. Go win some money.